This is Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
I shudder thinking how the world can be so cruel. Lend my voice to those who can't. It's time we try, it's time we care, it's time we stand. It starts with a voice.
Welcome to the Special Chronicles podcast. My name is Daniel Smrokowski. I'm the founder and a host of Special Chronicles, an EnergyForce ambassador with ComEd, and a Southern Driver Global Messenger alum with Special Olympics. Our website, specialchronicles.com, to follow Special Chronicles on socials and wherever you get your podcasts. This week on the Special Chronicles podcast, EnergyForce Series, Season 7, Part 8, our topic is the ComEd Powering Lives Education Centers.
Energy makes the modern world modern. It powers our lives and keeps us connected. Here in Northern Illinois, ComEd is a big part of the story, continuing to update the grid with the latest technology.
With the smart grid, we've started a new chapter in the energy industry. A smart grid makes the whole system more resilient and more adaptable to future technologies. That means new ways to save money, enhance security, and make the grid even more reliable.
You'll learn about how energy delivery and electricity use are changing, meet some of the people behind the system, and discover how you can make an impact. Together, we're connecting our communities and defining the future of energy. Welcome.
Lisa Mannella, Senior Marketing Specialist at ComEd, joins us. If you're watching the video, then you see her sitting to the left of me. If you're listening to the audio podcast, then you'll hear in a moment. She joins us to give us an overview of the ComEd's Education Center and how it can benefit you, the customer. Please put your virtual hands together as we welcome Lisa, finally, 7 years later, on the Special Chronicles podcast on specialchronicles.com. Welcome, Lisa. Oh,
You should unmute me.
I should unmute you.
Hi, thanks, Daniel, for having me on.
Yeah, it's good. And usually we do the most of these podcasts virtually, but it's good to be
in studio.
In studio.
Yeah.
Well, in this, not my actual studio, but in studio.
Yeah.
Before we get in, the top of the episode, our listeners saw or listened to that overview video of the Education Center, which is the main topic of why we're having you on. But I thought we could, before we get to the main topic, take our listeners back to how we first got connected, which if our listeners want to watch us try to figure that out in the bonus content for this episode, if you go to specialchronicles.com/plus, you all can donate to this podcast and to be able to get access to that bonus content for this episode. But how did we get connected? Because a fun fact for listeners is you are the reason of how Special Chronicles first started partnering with the ComEd EnergyForce Ambassador Program.
Yeah.
So how did we get connected? We count that story for our listeners.
Sure. So we had to think about that a little bit, didn't we?
Yes.
But we think that we did meet at the National Association of Down Syndrome Conference back in 2016. And you were there as a vendor with a table talking about Special Chronicles.
Yes.
And I was there as a parent, learning about everything that there was to learn about Down syndrome. So that's how we met.
Yeah.
And we also had some mutual friends
Yeah.
in common. So it was a nice introduction.
It was a nice introduction. And then I know my dad, who's the business manager at Special Chronicles, we like when I think you had called him on the phone and and then he and I were talking, and we won't really show exactly if Special Chronicles fit into one of the organizations that ComEd and the EnergyForce program partners with. But
Right.
but after us talking, it ended up
Working out.
and now 7 years
Yeah.
later, we're still.
Yeah. So at that time, I was working on EnergyForce. That was one of my projects that I worked on at work. And so after I met you and saw, everything you did with your podcast, and I thought it was so important. And I thought, what a great way to highlight your podcast and highlight our energy efficiency programs at the same time.
Because I think a lot of what I've been podcasting 16 years, a lot of is sharing and telling our disability stories.
Mm-hmm.
But what I think is neat about this particular series on this podcast is, well, yes, it's trained by those of us with disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
And people are able to, in addition to all the other podcast episodes that I've done, this is just people are able to see that despite our challenges, we're still able to educate the community about how to save energy, how to go solar, something new that you said coming in 2025 that I don't know if we can tease that out later on, but
we can talk about that a little bit.
So speaking, you said that you were there with your daughter. Can you share with us a little bit about what disability your daughter was diagnosed with?
Yeah.
And tell us about your daughter's birth story and her early years with her disability.
Yeah. So Tegan is my middle child. She is currently, she will be 19 in September. September 15th is her birthday. And she has Down syndrome. And so found out about her diagnosis at birth. And, it's been a journey with Tegan, and it was a journey of learning for me, especially because I didn't know what to expect. And I kind of let her lead the way, and we figured it out as we went along. And I met people like yourself and your dad and countless of other friends and important people in my life that I probably wouldn't have met otherwise. Mm-hmm. So it's really been a gift. I say that, she was a gift that I didn't, think that, I had even thought of something like having a child with special needs, but it really has opened so many things for me and my family.
Awesome. And as we know that the challenges is not the focus of this podcast, but it is, as one of my journalism professors had told me, it's a good foundation to us, to our story. And so you sure that's what are a few of the challenges, and I think I wrote these challenges because of your disability, but we can relate it to your daughter. So
right.
What are the few of the challenges that your daughter Tegan has had because of her Down
her diagnosis?
Syndrome, her diagnosis.
So, she's been pretty lucky. She didn't have any health issues from birth, so we didn't have any of those challenges. She was healthy, and we just kind of went through the normal things of going, starting with early intervention and doing physical therapy and speech therapy. And she's kind of just like, come along. She has an older sister and a younger brother. So I think she was very protected, and they kind of helped her along the way and helped her grow and helped her learn things. And she continues to do that. Challenges, with any child, there's always challenges. No child is easy, and no child comes with an instruction manual. So you just kind of have to, figure those things out as you go along. But I have to say that Tegan coming into our family was nothing more than a blessing for us. So
awesome. And as we know, the focus of this podcast is not about our challenges, but about our joys and accomplishments. And briefly share with us what are some of the joys and accomplishments because of her disability.
So she is just a very positive girl. She thinks that she has really, really a good amount of self-confidence. I wish that my other two children had as much confidence as Tegan does. And she's just brings a level of joy, and sometimes maybe not all the time for her siblings. Sometimes, there's just the normal sibling arguments and such, but I've seen her interact with other people that are essentially strangers, and she'll totally charm them into, becoming like her biggest and best fan. So she just has a lot of joy innately inside of her, and she tends to share that with everybody she meets.
Awesome. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will get into if you guys listened to the top of the episode and saw that overview video, the reason why we're having you on is we'll tell you all about the education centers that ComEd has and why it's important, and how you listening or watching. Apparently, watching is now a thing that people do on podcasts.
Yeah.
So, not my preferred way of listening, but sometimes you have to turn the camera on for the viewers. We'll get into that after this show break to let you all know that support for Special Chronicles comes from listeners like you. Please join all supporters with a monthly or one-time donation so we can operate our studio and continue our mission and respect and voice to those of us with disabilities. You can visit specialchronicles.com/plus to join Special Chronicles Plus and access all exclusive bonus content. If you want to watch as the moment that Lisa, our guest today, walked into the studio, and there was a reason why I started recording. Right, so if you want to watch that, watch all that behind the scenes. If you join specialchronicles.com/plus, starting at $10 a month and up, or just a one-time donation, you guys can all do that at specialchronicles.com/plus.
Awesome.
So with that, the overview video that we played at the top of the episode gave our listeners an overview, but maybe share with, because the first time I found out about the Education Center was at our ComEd EnergyForce training, and even a few years ago, I didn't even realize that the Smart Hub was one of the education centers, and so that kind of over the past, in my time, the past 7 years as an EnergyForce ambassador, I've slowly learned about the Education Center. I'm sure a lot of our listeners, a lot of these topics that we have on this series, people like my mom who listen to this podcast, and many of our other listeners are learning about these resources that ComEd has to help our listeners save energy. So can you break it down to us now? What is the ComEd Powering Live Education Center?
So I have a unique perspective on that center because I was part of the initial group that started it, that created it. So I was lucky enough to work with some of our VPs at ComEd, and I think it was at least 2015 or 2014, maybe, when we started the center, because the building itself was being built, and part of the ask of the building in the area that it was in Chicago was that we build this community center that allowed the community to be to utilize the building. And part of that was that they wanted it to be completely inclusive. They wanted it to be educational. They wanted it to talk about our programs and what was important to us, like STEM. And they wanted it to be open and available for people to visit. So those were kind of the initial marching orders we were given. And then I worked with an exhibit company called Lucy Creative, which is a Chicago-based company, and started to work on figuring out what this center was going to be and what would make community members or our customers visit.
Awesome. I made a couple notes there that I wanted to touch on.
Yeah.
You had said that hearing that you were one of the people that started the Education Center, I guess makes you, that's probably why I'm calling had recommended you to be on.
Yeah.
But you had mentioned that you you and your team created the Education Center to be inclusive. As you know, the EnergyForce Ambassador Program is led by those of us with disabilities. So when we talk about it being inclusive and accessible, can you elaborate a little bit on how the Education Center is both accessible for people with physical disabilities, but also for those of us with intellectual or learning disabilities? Because something that made like the Special Olympics World Games in Berlin really accessible is creating content in easy language. Where easy language, I'm sure that you know what that is, but for our listeners, it's creating, like taking what might be written in one way and making it so people, those of us with learning or intellectual disabilities, are able to easily to make it more inclusive and accessible that way. So it can maybe from both perspective, with both accessible for people with physical disabilities, but then also for those of us with intellectual learning disabilities. How is it inclusive in both
ways?
In both ways.
Yeah. So when we started to build the center, that was one of the mandates from at that time, our CEO. And Lucy Creative does exhibits for museums. So they're generally used to building things that are beyond ADA compliance. So when we say like the way that the center, the entry is, and how people get around the center, and how we have stations that are at a height for a wheelchair, and wheelchair accessibility can go underneath certain of the tables or the STEM exhibits that are in there. We also have things in dual languages, so we're able to do it, so if you're multilingual, there's different ways we can look at it that way. So in the videos, there's all subtitles of English and Spanish. And then we also looked at how people were digesting it. So some of it's self-led, so somebody can just walk through and read everything, but we also have tour guides who are able to take somebody through it. So based upon who's going to be in the center, we kind of tailor what the experience is going to be. So our events group kind of does that on the fly. But if you're dual language, there's a PDF of all the graphics that have all the in Spanish and, different things like that. So we tried to think, a little bit beyond and, and try to make everything as simple. There's multiple levels of, some things are like on digital screens where you can interact with them physically by touch, and some things project on walls. So it depends on the level, I think, of the person and how far they want to get into it. So you can get from the exhibit kind of what you need.
Awesome. And there's a tool that I've used that I wish I had when I was in school, but it's called, the app is called Speechify. I don't know if you've heard of, where which I've actually, even I've checked out books from the library where we're sitting in right now, and I've scanned in the physical pages, and then it's human-like AI voices that will read. So do you have that ability to?
But that's a really good idea. I'm wondering if I will have to talk a little bit later and see if maybe that's something that we could figure out a way to work in. Yeah,
because I think that's, especially with those of us with reading challenges, where we need to be able to listen to what we like. Maybe that's another way to even take the inclusive and accessibility
level
to a whole new level. Awesome.
Well, that's Tegan uses that technology a lot. So that's a totally good point, and that's maybe something we can look at.
Awesome. So I'm glad I'm glad that we had you on the podcast. Kind of that improv thought of share with us some of the programs and information that if our listeners go, we'll put links in the show notes to the address and to where people can book time to go to the Education Center. But what programs and information when people go, kind of an overview of what?
Yeah, so the whole exhibit, the Powering Lives, it's called the Powering Lives Community Center, but the exhibit is called Our Energy, Our Future. And so what you are learning in it is kind of like, what does ComEd do? So it takes you, and the first thing you see is a big video screen that kind of gives you an overview of what ComEd does. Then you walk into the center, and what you're learning about first, which is very close to what you guys talk about, is energy efficiency and kind of those low cost, no cost ways you can save energy in your home with, lighting or smart thermostats or vampire load and all those types of things that you guys talk about. Then where people are learning next is, appliances and how appliances affect that. And then we're talking about how do you have a connected home and using smart technology. And then what does a smart home look like? So it kind of takes you through all these different levels of the things that can help to save you energy and make your life easier. But then it also goes into the kinds of energy. So we talk about nuclear energy, and we talk about solar, and we talk about wind and water and all the different ways that energy is produced. And then it talks about the smart grid and what the smart grid does and how it helps ComEd to make sure that, the service to our customers is reliable. And then we have a section that's about careers and how do you become, part of ComEd and what kind of careers are available. And then there's an exhibit that will let you virtually climb a pole. So you can see what it's like when the line workers climb a pole, and it feels like you're climbing it with them. So
yeah, awesome. Speaking of some of that, I think the one of the education centers at, I think, the location on California Avenue in Chicago, I didn't get to experience that much, partly because we were being interviewed on camera for some promotional videos. But the Smart Hub, I noticed some of that people get to that hands-on experience. So building upon what you just said about what our listeners can, we recommend the listeners to go and visit. Can you give us a virtual tour of, and our listeners can go back? And I don't know if that promo video if it's on YouTube.
It should be on YouTube.
Okay.
We'll find out.
Yeah. So maybe by this episode is going live next week. So maybe this week, maybe we can try to find a link, because I know we shared it on the podcast, but that's the video file.
Right.
So you guys, our listeners, can go rewind to the beginning of this episode, or we'll try to find a link to that. But kind of building, I think that promo video gave a good overview. Can you give us that virtual tour of when somebody goes to one of the education centers?
Yeah. So with Powering Lives Center, it's much more self-guided, so you can kind of walk through on your own. The other two centers are field trip only. So those are only done with field trip facilitators. They're a little different, and they're also geared towards younger kids. So those smart energy hubs at both Rockford and Chicago are geared towards more grade school or elementary kids and middle school. The Powering Lives Community Center is geared more towards middle school, high school, and adult learners. So it's a little bit higher level information there. At the Powering Lives Center, there are 3 STEM challenges. So they're actual computer kiosks where you can answer questions and kind of play a game that is a STEM challenge. So you're learning, in one of them, you're learning about power outages and how a power outage happens, and then what happens when the ComEd truck arrives, and then what happens behind the scenes. And it's really fun and interactive. There's another one that is talking about solar energy and how do you increase solar for your home, and how do you get solar panels put on your home or business. So they're very hands-on experiences, and they're more geared towards older kids or adults.
Awesome. So whether we have adult listeners or somebody that's listening that might want to have, I know the back to school season is coming on now, so I'm sure there might even be some teachers that or even parents who are listening who might want to tell their teachers or the schools about this. What actually, you know what? That's a good segue. We'll take another quick break and get into the benefits of why people should come after the short break. It's all about keeping people on the edge of those seats to keep listening to this episode to hear more. We'll take a quick break to let you all know that support for Special Chronicles comes from, as you couldn't tell from the series, but it comes from the ComEd EnergyForce Ambassador Program, the country's first energy and solar efficiency education program designed for and taught by people with disabilities like myself and the 30 of us EnergyForce ambassadors. Learn more at specialchronicles.com/ComEd. That's specialchronicles.com/ComEd, where we've got links to where you can learn more. And support for Special Chronicles comes from comes from United Airlines Bridge Disability Business Resource Group, connected people of all abilities. Learn more on United's commitment to to disability inclusion for employment and travel, including having 18 and growing special Olympics athletes like myself employed at United Airlines. You can learn more at specialchronicles.com/United, specialchronicles.com/United. And in case you're wondering, and listeners know, we do not have any promo codes where you can get discounts on the travel. with that sponsorship, but it's more to let you know we share more how United is.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's just, maybe you should put that disclaimer out there, all of you listening. So with that, kind of building upon that last segment, we might have, either teachers or parents or people that might want to come out to the education center. And again, we're giving, without making this episode so long, a nice kind of, I liked how you condense that overview kind of virtual tool. And so how does the Powering Lives Education Center benefit the community? In case we have any families or teachers or schools that are listening in to this episode, how can this education benefit the whole community?
Yeah, so the centers are all open for field trips or organizations who want to come and visit. So you can go to comed.com/education centers. I think I also saw on the video that it's at comed.com/education. So both of those probably go to the same place. But you can go there to find out how you can request a visit. And most of the time it's it's not individual people, but it's like groups of people. So if it's a school or an organization, you're allowed to ask for a, appointment to kind of reserve time at any of the centers.
Awesome. And I'm sure as for a lot of listeners that might want to know, you touched on it, but how can the community, school groups, or anyone schedule a time to tour the centers? Is you said if our listeners go to comed.com/education or comed.com/education centers, they can book a time online. Is booking a time online the only place where our listeners can go to schedule a time, or is there a phone number to call or email? Or
I think that's the only way to do it. There's a form you fill out, and then somebody would get back in touch with you to kind of formalize what you're looking for and how to schedule it. So
for both school groups, but also for if those adults, or just if those if there's someone listening that homeschools their kids, or just anybody that wants both ways can just go to comed.com/education centers.
Yes.
Awesome. So for those of you that are not watching the video, if you're like me, listen to just the audio podcast, we'll put that link in the description below. But if you all happen to be, and maybe this is an episode that people go in or watch us and see us interact face to face, you can that link is right below there. With that, where is the Powering Lives Education Center located? You said that you've got a few of them.
Yeah, so the Powering Lives Community Center is located on California between Addison and Belmont in the Chicago Avondale neighborhood. So that is what we call as our Chicago North location. The Chicago Training Center Smart Energy Hub is located on Iron Street. It's kind of by where the Sox play, which I couldn't remember what the name of the stadium was.
Yeah,
I just had.
I know. I'm blanking on this. I can tell you what the Cubs
guaranteed rate.
Guaranteed rate. It sounds like.
Is that the right name?
Is that the way? Somebody listening can put it in the comments on Spotify or YouTube and fact check us.
Yes, because I don't know. Yeah. And then the other Smart Energy Hub is in Rockford, in one of our facilities there.
And all those when people go to ComEd.com/education centers, the address for all those locations
yes, it should all be on there. Yes.
Okay, awesome. So speaking of the this final segment, the social media plugs, you share with us again and remind our listeners where they can go to learn more and book a time at the Pauling Lives Education Center, as well as where to follow ComEd on socials as well.
Yeah, so you can follow ComEd on Facebook and Instagram. I do also believe we are on X.
Okay.
Also known as Twitter. But those are where you can actually go and find out any information. We talk about our programs all the time. If there's outages, you can report outages on those channels.
Yeah, we did. So last year we did an episode, and I've rebroadcasted that episode a couple weeks ago on communicating energy. Like it was with one of social media managers. We did an episode talking about all the different ways that ComEd is showing on. So I forgot I forgot what episode number that was, but if you guys go to specialchronicles.com/EnergyForce, you can find that episode.
Yeah, I think we feature EnergyForce ambassadors on our social platforms too.
Awesome. So we'll put those links in the show notes, and then the education centers. Where can people go? Just
go back to ComEd.com/education centers, and I think also ComEd.com/education if you don't want to type it all in.
Awesome. So we'll put those links in the show notes, and for those of you listening, I'll make sure to add that link. We've got a page of resources on specialchronicles.com/ComEd, and so I'll make sure to add that link to our catalog of resources, an easy place to point people that are listening to this podcast. So with that, we're just about out of time, because I know we've got maybe less than the 10 minutes, and then we have to I have to pack up this this temporary studio. And so with that, I am pulling up my final clips to play at the end. So I know we're at about 30 minutes of time. I know the time has flown by, we try to kind of keep this nice and easy chunk of information for people to and I know I have learned a lot. I'm sure listeners have learned a lot about the education center. So do you have any final thoughts on your overall time here today on the Special Chronicles podcast?
No, I think that inclusion is so important, right?
Yeah.
We talk about it in Special Olympics. We talk about it at ComEd. Talk about it every day in my life to make sure that my daughter's included in everything. So it's important all the way around.
Awesome. So it's been joy having you on the program, and we've got one final question, and so we're going to go ahead and roll that bumper.
We're not just athletes.
We are the ambassadors of an uprising. Peaceful protesters.
In a
Let's play that one.
We're not just athletes.
We are the ambassadors of an uprising. Peaceful protesters.
In a rebellion against anyone
who has a fear of difference. Difference. Our demands are
equality,
dignity, and the recognition of our shared humanity.
We will not stop
or accept anything less.
Today, our world is
more divided than ever, and coming together has never been more urgent.
The revolution
is inclusion.
Find out more at jointherevolution.org.
So what I like about these clips to play on the episode, it gives a chance to drink water on the. So, anyways, ever since I attended the 2019 Special Olympics World Games in Abu Dhabi 5-6 years ago, I've been asking all guests one part of question because we don't just want our listeners to listen and consume this content, but we want our listeners to kind of take action and bring inclusion into their communities. And so I think that this final question gets to the heart of what we want our listeners to kind of take and not just consume the content, because I know there's so much podcast and media content out there that people can just come at them, but we want our listeners to kind of take out into the community. And so like I've been doing the past 5-6 years, I'll ask you as well, what does inclusion mean to you?
It means something very important to me. It's basically how I've, I guess, changed my thoughts on a lot of things since Tegan was born. I feel like what I do at work, especially working with EnergyForce, like carries that through in a very real and meaningful way about, employment for people with disabilities. And the center then also embodied inclusion to me, because that was one of our main goals in creating the center was inclusion. So I feel like it's very important. It means the world to me, actually.
Awesome. Yeah. So that's a perfect way to wrap up this episode, because we just like the EnergyForce program gives us on the job training. Like, yes, we've got like I'm sure that you are familiar with the job skills type classes that your daughters had, that I have had in high school, but also this EnergyForce program gives us like on the job type training, but then also the education center kind of gives that kind of self-guided type of training as well. So perfect way to wrap up. For those of you listening, we would just want to remind you that you can join our supporters with a monthly or one-time donation to operate our studio, continue our mission, give respect and voice to those of us with disabilities. You can visit specialchronicles.com/plus to join and access and watch the behind the scenes if you want to see Lisa walking into the studio and all that. And in fact, there's even a little clip where
I interrupt you?
Oh yeah, there was even a little bit of you a little bit of that white people, but it's all good. That's the bonus footage. So you guys can all get $10 a month and up, or just any donation. Specialchronicles.com/plus is where you all can go. Our website team really spent a lot of time building that because I didn't know how to do that, and so our website team really knows how to do that.
That's awesome.
And then you can shop our merchandise store. We have our Disabled Voices Matter line of merch. I'm not wearing it today, but if you go to specialchronicles.com/shop, we've got our Disabled Voices Matter. We got T-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs. In fact, a listener, a friend of mine in Great Britain, had even her mom just posted a picture on her Facebook page of her. She's a 6-time Special Olympics World Games cyclist. Wow. And she was wearing one of our Disabled Voices Matter line of merch. So you all can get that at specialchronicles.com/shop, and 60% of the profits will go back to Special Chronicles. So great. You can show your support. So tap that follow button. I know, Lisa, you are following this Special Chronicles podcast. So you guys can join Lisa and on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Tap that follow button so you never miss a new episode every Monday. One of these weeks, I should probably take a break. Yeah. But
busy guy.
We'll get there. So follow specialchronicles.com for links to follow us on socials and listen to our archives. And until then, thank you again, Lisa, for coming on the Special Chronicles podcast. And we'll catch you all next week on, at the beginning of next month, we should have our Inclusive Health series that we are working on. 5 episodes, 5 brand new episodes, all about inclusive health with the Healthy Athletes Program at Special Olympics coming up. And then as you guys stay tuned, we will in Washington, D.C. with the athletes out there that are service ambassadors at United Airlines. And we got new episodes that will be premiering in October. So
Awesome.
Lots of content, you guys, coming in the coming weeks right here on SpecialChronicles.com. So until then, have a great week and choose to include.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Special Chronicles podcast. Our podcast was produced by Daniel Smrokowski on the Special Chronicles Network. Follow Special Chronicles on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Subscribe, rate, and review Special Chronicles on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Our website, SpecialChronicles.com, where you can stream our archives of over 500 episodes for free. Also, there's a list of our favorites, original series, award-winning columns, and blogs. And sign up for our newsletter to receive exclusive bonus content delivered to your inbox. Again, SpecialChronicles.com. Special Chronicles is hosted by Podbean Podcast Hosting. Our live streams are powered by StreamYard. Thanks, as always, to our business manager, Adam Smrokowski, who always encourages us to never give up. I'm Daniel Smrokowski, back next week with more stories.
Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.